Good morning. It's Jen Taub Live, and let's get right into it. Yesterday evening, I read something that blew my mind. It was the kind of thing like you see in the movies, like in the film A Beautiful Mind or what have you, where you see someone diagramming all these connections and then they all come together. Um, and sometimes in those movies, you think the person is, well, in It's a Beautiful Mind, Nash was actually suffering from, I believe, schizophrenia and other things, but he was brilliant. So the point I'm making is when all these things came together in my mind last night about the connection between Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, and Putin, my mind was blown and I had to do a little more research. And when I did a little more research, I became convinced that something has been hiding for us in plain sight about Donald Trump, and that there might be a connection actually between Russia's interference in the 2016 election and in the 2020 and in the 2024 elections that have been documented, and the control that Putin believes that he has over Donald Trump to try to get his way in this war, in this land grab involving Ukraine. Okay, so let me just start at the beginning. Let me start with the thumbnail, and then we're going to move out to details. So as you can see on the left, I'm showing what appears to be, it's a mock-up of a VHS tape. And you can see there is a photo that I've kind of, put on the center. This is a photo you've seen gazillion times of Prince Andrew with Virginia Roberts Giffray, when she was just 17 years old. And then, of course, we have Donald Trump looking shocked and Putin looking over his shoulder. So that is the theme. So let me just walk you through, instead of giving you an overview, my own discovery. Okay, guys. So if you just tuned in, this is Jen Taub Live, and I am showing you why my mind was blown yesterday and why I believe that Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin have, at the very least, evidence in terms of photographs or video of Prince Andrew and other men engaged in illegal activity with minors. And what I mean by this is essentially child rape. Okay, so let me walk you through why I believe this and why you're going to see I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat. And then we're going to take it a step further. So let me have you follow along the rabbit hole. It wasn't even a rabbit hole, it was in plain sight. Okay, so let's start first with what I saw in the news. This is an article that was published in a British newspaper yesterday, entitled Five Prince Andrew Bombshells, Unbelievably Cruel Royal Called Staff Member an Imbecile. So this is an article by someone by the name of Sarah Hooper. And the reason why she's writing this article, and I'm going to drop this link in the chat. It's from, here we go. It's from metro.co.uk. So I'm going to throw this legit newspaper. The reason why Sarah Hooper is writing, let me just come into the frame. The reason why Sarah Hooper is writing this article is because a book is about to be published, but pieces of it are coming out in the news. A book is about to be published on August 14th, right? In a few weeks, 2 weeks, August 14th, about Prince Andrew. And the author is someone who's written several biographies of royals. So this is what makes this newsworthy. And I dropped that in the chat. Okay, so let's just bump this up a little bigger and go to the next slide. Okay, so what she writes, here's a photograph. The author here writes, so the the author of the article, Hooper, writes about the book by a man named Lowney, a royal biographer. His name is Andrew James Hamilton Lowney, and he's a historian and author, and he has written several books about the royals. Okay, so here we go. So let's go back. Here is this photograph from that same article. It's a photograph from Getty Images, and this is a photograph from 2000. This is right around the same time that Virginia Roberts Giffray was working. It's actually the same year she was working at Mar-a-Lago, and then ends up over at Jeff Epstein's place, trafficked, raped and trafficked for wealthy men. Okay, so this is from 2000. Here's what the article says. During a conversation in 2000, Lowney claimed that Trump handed Prince Andrew a list of masseuses after the pair chatted about pussy. More. At one point in the book, Lowney recounted Epstein's remarks. This is Jeff Epstein now. Jeff Epstein's remarks to friends about Prince Andrew, who he referred to as a fellow serial sex addict. Epstein reportedly said, "He's the only person I have met who is more obsessed with pussy than me. From the reports I got back from the women we've shared, he, Prince Andrew, is the most perverted animal in the bedroom. He likes to engage in stuff that's even kinky to me, and I am the king of kink." Ugh. Okay, so continue. This is the same article that I'm telling you about, written by Sarah Hooper, published yesterday. There are reports that, okay, so this is the part, I'm going to remove this for 1 second. So I'm reading this, right? And I'm like, okay, so there's this book out about Prince Andrew. I get to this next part, and this is where my mind starts to be blown. Okay, let's go. There are reports that John Mark Dougan, a former deputy in Palm Beach County's sheriff's office, fled to Russia with files on Prince Andrew's involvement with Epstein. What? I'm thinking to myself. Let me continue. Dougan has claimed the files contain lots of videos and scanned documents, including a compromising video of Andrew. Okay, here's how the article ends. There is no current press officer for Prince Andrew, but Metro has contacted the royal household for a statement. Okay. So now my mind is reeling, because I'm like, who the fromage is John Mark Dougan? Why is that name never registered in my mind, right? I'm thinking, what the hell? And so I started doing research, but I also was like, what are things slipping my mind? Like, why was this not at the forefront of any kind of discussion? Okay, so I'm like, let me just dig a little deeper. This is just one article. Guys, are you with me right here? Would you want to dig a little deeper? Okay, so I did. And look what I found. This is an article in the Washington Post, right? So if you Google John Mark Dougan, and you find this piece, in the Washington Post. Hold on. And I'm going to give you the link to this because I want you to be able to follow along. I'm sharing with you an article from last October 2024. So on your left is the photo from the Washington Post of Dougan. And it says, American creating deep fakes targeting Harris. Yes, Kamala Harris works with Russian intel, documents show. Catherine Belton writes this article for the Post. Again, the fall, like about a year ago, less than a year ago. A former deputy Palm Beach County sheriff. Okay, I'm stopping there for a moment. Palm Beach County. Again, Palm Beach County. That's where Jeff Epstein was arrested. Palm Beach County. That's where Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago is. Let's continue. A former deputy Palm Beach County sheriff who fled to Moscow and became one of the Kremlin's most prolific propagandists is working directly with Russian military intelligence to pump out deep fakes and circulate misinformation that targets Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign, according to Russian documents obtained by a European intelligence service and reviewed by the Washington Post. Okay, last October, during the run-up to the election, this is sourced to a European intelligence service. So what we know now is the Washington Post reported this. Washington Post, which has gotten even more conservative over the years, right, with Bezos. Washington Post reports about this European intelligence service knowing about this guy, knowing about John Mark Dougan. Shall I continue? I think I shall. Okay, let's continue. The more than 150 documents which were shared with the Washington Post to demonstrate the extent of Russian interference through Dougan and focused mostly on the period between March 2021 and August 2024, for the first time expose some of the inner workings of a network that researchers and intelligence officials say has become the most potent source of fake news emanating from Russia and targeting American voters over the past year. You heard that. I'm actually curious how many people who are watching this right now have ever actually heard of this guy, John Mark Dougan. Please tell me in the chat. Okay. It won't surprise you to find out that he was also involved somehow with the Internet Research Agency, the entity that was actually indicted in absentia by the Mueller team. Okay, let's continue. Let us continue. Dougan is responsible for content on dozens of fake news sites with names such as DC Weekly, Chicago Chronicle, and Atlanta Observer. So these are fake news sites. They sound real, the names, according to the documents and disinformation researchers. In the months that followed his reboot with the new GRU facilitated server and AI generator, the sites and fake news videos. Someone said, what is his actual name? Let me show you his picture. His name right here is, his name is John Mark Dougan. There you see his photo and his picture. Okay, so let's look. So again, he in the months following his reboot with the new GRE facilitated server, an AI generator, artificial intelligence generator, the sites and fake news videos spread by Dougan and his associates have produced some of the most viral Russian disinformation targeting Harris, according to Microsoft and NewsGuard, including a deep fake audio in August that purported to show Barack Obama implying that the Democrats had ordered the July assassination attempt of Donald Trump. Now, I'm reading to you from the Washington Post, not a fake news site. Okay, going back to this. There's more. More recently, so remember, this is an article from October, right before the election. Most recently, Dougan was the initial source for a false claim behind the viral fake video that alleged Tim Walz, he was right, the candidate for VP, abused a student at the high school where he taught. And NewsGuard, again, that fake site, believes, I'm sorry, not NewsGuard. NewsGuard's a real site, sorry. NewsGuard believes Dougan's network may be behind its further dissemination. 11 days before a video appeared with what NewsGuard said was probably an AI-generated persona claiming to be a former Walz student, Dougan appeared on a podcast making a similar but separate false claim, presenting an anonymous man claiming to be a former exchange student from Kazakhstan. Okay. Are you guys with me? Again, if you have just joined me, I'm just going to show you what I'm reading right now. I am reading from an article published in 2019, and I dropped it in the chat from the Washington Post. And the reason why I am doing this is because I read a piece yesterday about a book about Prince Andrew saying that this man, John Mark Dougan, who defected or who sought asylum and got it in Russia in around, I think it was 2015 or 2016, that this man used to be an officer in the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. He was a deputy sheriff. And he supposedly had and took with him and shared with Russia incriminating videotape evidence, including of Prince Andrew with minors. Okay, I'm adding this to the stage again. Here we go. Okay. Moreover, outlandish claims. Dougan's use of websites to attack perceives enemies stretches back to his time in law enforcement in the United States. He said he clashed with people in the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office after he complained about abuses by a sergeant in his unit who boasted on Facebook about beating people he arrested. Okay, so let's look at his motive for wanting to defect or wanting to attack his perceived enemy. So on the one hand, he's pointing to something that sounds credible, a sheriff, a cop, boasting about harming people he arrests, but there's more. Doesn't seem like, well, let's just look. It's a little complicated. Now, what else do we see? Dougan had worked in the sheriff's office in Palm Beach from 2005 to 2008. Do you know when that is, guys? 2005 was right around when Jeff Epstein, someone finally drops the dime on him that the the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office believes, and they start investigating. In 2008 is when Epstein goes in to serve his time nominally in that work release prison program where he gets to leave during the day, the jail. Okay, so that's the time frame. Okay, so he works there from 2005 to 2008 and faced 11 internal affairs investigations before he left, according to the Palm Beach Post. A jury also awarded a fellow Palm Beach Sheriff's deputy $275,000 after it found that Dougan had pepper sprayed and arrested the officer without cause. This sounds like he's crazy. He also claimed that the internal affairs investigations were a result of his blowing the whistle on the sergeant's alleged assaults. So then he resigns, right? After he resigns, he moved to Maine, where he was soon dismissed from a police department over complaints alleging sexual harassment. Okay. It is often the case that people who get in trouble for their behavior, like his sexual harassment, would be angry that others get away with it, right? Or get away with what they perceive as worse. So we're building, I think, some motivation. That's not in the article, but I'm trying to run this through my mind as I was reading it. Okay, let's read a little more. That was the Washington Post. There's more. Last fall, mainstream source after source after source talks about this guy. So, but no one's really focused as much on Epstein. Now let's look at this piece. This is from NBC, and it's Brandy Zagovny, and you've seen her You've seen her. I think she now is on, Brandy Zadrozny. You might have seen her recently. She appears a lot on television. I'm not sure if she is still with NBC News or she's with a different source. This is another picture of John Mark Dougan. And the headline for this NBC piece from last fall, actually, let me tell you the exact year for this is this was May of 2024. So it was even before the direct, in the run up to the election. The headline here in NBC in Brandy's article is Russian disinformation sites linked to former Florida deputy sheriff research finds. Okay, so let's keep going on this. Furthermore, it followed a story posted. So this is an excerpt from this talking about how this DC Weekly, like, is a fake news site. So they said there was a DC Weekly story in November. So they're talking about November of 2023 that falsely claimed Volodymyr Zelensky had used American aid money to buy 2 yachts. Both rumors were lied, as a network often does. This is the misinformation network. On videos posted to YouTube by newly created accounts, a site like DC Weekly will publish fake news stories using videos of seemingly AI-generated leaks or examples of whistleblowing, and Russian influencers and bot networks will then spread those articles, according to the Clemson researchers. That's the university. Ultimately, the fake articles are reported as fact by pro-Kremlin media outlets, and in some of the most successful cases by Western politicos and pundits. The rumor about Zelensky's buying yachts was later promoted by Republican members of Congress, including Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia and Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, who obviously later became our vice president. But there's more. Okay. So let me just, what you see happening here is all I did was pull this thread, right? Like I'm just going to show you the first thing I had started with. I started with, interesting. There's an article about a new book on Prince Andrew. And then I see this idea in this new book bio about Prince Andrew that he was actually introduced to Donald Trump by Prince Andrew, and that Donald Trump offered him a list of masseuses. So this was how I got interested in it. So I'm going to go back to that before I get to more information on this officer who ties it all together. I was kind of like, holy shit, in 2000, after a conversation about sex, Donald Trump allegedly gives Prince Andrew a list of 20 masseuses he might use. Masseuses from where? From Mar-a-Lago? Ask yourself what that's about. That this happened at the same time that Epstein, in Donald Trump's words, stole a 17-year-old who was reading a book about how to become a masseuse, who was a spa attendant. What was he planning for her? Okay, so I just want to let you know that's why I was interested in this article. And then I see this guy mentioned, as we've talked about, Mark John Dougan. Okay, let's get now. So I've showed you a piece from the Washington Post from October of 2024, a piece from NBC News from earlier, the spring of 2024. And now I want to share with you something else. This is a piece from the London Times, a legit paper, not one of these fake news sites. And this is dated September 2019. What is happening in September 2019? You might ask yourself. This is about a month after Jeff Epstein died in prison, either killed himself or was murdered, but either way, was allowed to die. He was supposed to have a roommate and his cellmate, and they had moved the cellmate out. They were supposed to have, this is the most high profile prisoner probably ever in that detention center. And he was not carefully watched. Okay, so right after that happened, this article runs in the London Times. FBI is involved in Jeff Epstein cover-up. That is in quotes. It's not the London Times factual statement. It's a quote. A former U.S. police officer, yes, you guys, Mark Dougan, a former U.S. police officer who fled to Russia and claims to have hundreds of hours of video from Jeffrey Epstein's properties, has said that the FBI may be helping to cover up Prince Andrew's alleged role in the sexual abuse scandal. I like to call it the sex abuse crime, but over in Europe, they call it a scandal. I'm sorry, over in England. Okay, in the UK. M16 Marine and Florida deputy sheriff may have passed compromising information about the prince to Russian authorities. Shall we continue? Mr. Dougan, 42, told the Times, again, this is the London Times, that he had not been approached by Russian officials. And Mr. Dougan told the Times last night that he had not been approached by Russian officials. So this is 2019. And it was ridiculous to suggest that he would hand over information. And this is Dougan. I'm certain the FBI is involved in some kind of cover-up over Epstein, he said. That could absolutely include Andrew's role, or it could be the senior FBI people visited the house and don't want to reveal that. The FBI got hold of all the data I have when they raided me. My copies of the files will never be released unless something untoward happens to me, because they are my guarantee of safety for me and my family in the U.S. Mr. Dougan says he had about 200 hours of video from inside Epstein's property, scans of documents seized by police and other data. Guys, 200 hours? Did you hear that he made copies? Did you listen that he said it's ridiculous to say he would hand it over? Did you hear he says that hand it over? I mean, who's to trust him? Hand it over doesn't mean, I mean, he could have shown it to the Russians, but my copies of the files will never be released unless something untoward happens to me. Now, the guy is a liar. We know that. We know he's a propagandist. But at the same time, M16 was concerned about this. And the fact that this guy worked there and he had a vendetta against people before he left and friends there suggests this could be true. Now, let's continue. Trying to blow this up. Dougan said he had watched only snatches of the video, which showed the interior rooms from several angles. He said that the data was given to him by a Florida police detective working on a case against Epstein for the procurement of minors. Mr. Dougan was investigated in the U.S. after exposing police racism and abuse on a website he created after his resignation in 2009. Now, remember, we saw that he may have resigned in 2008. In 2016, his computers were seized by the FBI. He said, if M16 has concerns about any ties between Prince Andrew and Jeff Epstein, they got it from their Washington counterparts, not me, he said. Mr. Dougan flew to Canada in a light aircraft in 2016, then fled to Russia, where he was granted asylum. He said that once he was in Moscow, he regained access to back-up copies of the Epstein files. He added that the encrypted files and their keys were held on 5 continents by people who did not know each other and would be revealed only in the event of my arrest if I go missing for an extended time or in a case of my unusual demise. Now, I can't necessarily believe anything or everything Dougan says. It does seem like fantastical. On the other hand, this man for years, for at least 8 years, was somehow connected to, probably even at that time, Russian and other disinformation, some disinformation campaigns, and was very astute, and technologically advanced. So who knows about what he is boasting about? But there are some facts here that are undeniable that I think we need to walk through so we understand some of this. We know that Prince Andrew settled a case with Virginia Roberts Jeffrey a few years before she died from suicide, settled a case with her. We also have seen photographs of Prince Andrew with his arm around the scantily clad waist of a 17-year-old. We also know that Jeff Epstein was a pedophile, that he served some time in state prison, and that the feds, for whatever reason, decided to give him a break and not only not charge him for federal offenses back in 2007 to 2008 when they were getting those charges, but they actually promised never to charge him and some of his compatriots, some of his co-offenders, some of the other child rapists. They decided not to, or traffickers, or aiders and abettors, or co-conspirators. They didn't charge them, and they gave them immunity through this, not immunity. They entered into a non-prosecution agreement, agreed not to prosecute those folks. So we know that all happened in the 2008 period. We also know that Jeff Epstein reoffended later, as did Ghislaine Maxwell, who was assisting him, and that they were both charged with sex crimes against children and trafficking up in the Southern District of New York, federal territory in New York. We know that Epstein died in prison. And now we know, as you know, we know that Ghislaine Maxwell has not only been given immunity for speaking to Donald Trump's former defense lawyer, the deputy AG, but they have moved her from the prison she was in Florida to a lighter security prison in Texas, where I believe Elizabeth Holmes is located, a place where white-collar criminals are supposed to be. And the Bureau of Prisons broke all protocol and waived the fact that she is a sex offender, that she was convicted of having, of having sexual contact with girls, people, children, right? They were not, they were in there. We have an example of one who was 14 who testified against her. We've talked about. And they have waived that and they've moved her there. We know all these pieces. We also have allegations because last week we went through the slideshow of not just Donald Trump sexually assaulting or the equivalent of raping adult women, but him walking in on the dressing room with 15-year-olds who were either naked or not fully dressed. We've heard him talking about how his lower limit is 12. That's about, he would never go that low in terms of people he dated, right? We also, it goes on and on. We've been through it. So when you put all, and then the other new piece of information here is the allegation that Donald gave these masseuse names to Epstein. The only question I think people want to know, and I'm seeing this when I posted on Blue Sky, is as follows. Is Donald Trump in any of the information related to Epstein? Or did Russia have compromising pictures of Donald Trump that it has been using or hinting at to keep Donald Trump on a short leash? I think that's what we want to know. We should also want to know does the FBI have that? Right? And that is, my friends, the million ruble question, right? Or the billion ruble question, or the billion Bitcoin question. We just don't know that yet. but it sure as hell would tie much of this all together. Now, before I get to other stuff in the news, let's also step back and make a notation of the fact that it's really weird that Donald Trump repeatedly has chosen people to be his attorney general, first term or this term, second term, who either have direct ties to Jeffrey Epstein or themselves were involved in alleged sex or raping minors, right? So let's look. His first attorney general that he selected, I mean, there was a brief stint with, I think, the acting AG, the guy with the man-sized toilets. What was his name? His first attorney, who was the guy? William Barr was actually Jeff Sessions was his first person in there. And then he was forced out, and Donald Trump ends up with eventually getting William Barr in there. In the meantime, he had Matthew Whitaker elevated to that position. Okay. William Barr was attorney general at the time in 2019 that Jeff Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were charged with the sex crimes out of New York. And as you know, Bill Barr's father hired Jeff Epstein to go work at Dalton for 2 years, even though Epstein did not have a college degree. So there's a weird connection there. Secondly, Donald Trump, this term, you might remember who he wanted to be his AG. Matt flippin' Gaetz. Okay, so that's weird. And now who does he ultimately choose when he can't get Gaetz? Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi was the Florida AG. When was that? Pam Bondi, Florida. She was the Attorney General of Florida from 2011 to 2019. Now, that is, of course, after it was, of course, after the time when Jeff Epstein was put into prison, but she also, as you might know, she also had some yucky ties to Donald Trump, prosecuting him for his fake university, not wanting to participate in prosecuting in the civil RICO case racketeering case brought against him. And lo and behold, when she backed off of that, he gave a donation to her campaign. So all these people are tied into this. Okay. So this is the stuff that blew my mind. And I'm just laying that out there. I also want to say it's abhorrent that they are in the process of, I believe, pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. So just want to let you know, I expect that to happen quickly. I think the faster it's tricky. I say it could happen quickly, but the problem with pardoning her quickly is that then she could, in theory, be required to testify. But I think Congress will just continue not to call her, or she will not show up. My expectation is that she gets pardoned and she leaves the country. I don't know, but we'll see. I don't know the timing of this. I think Donald Trump wants this to go away as fast as possible so he can say this is done. Now, I would like to now tell you what else, because there are other things happening in the news that are of value. Donald Trump has got to be possibly one of the biggest con artist in US history. This is something I've been talking about since he was elected. I am kind of an expert on con artists. I make it my business to follow them because I am fascinated with why it is that people believe the con, why people fall for the con again and again. So let's talk about what's going on with him now. Donald Trump doesn't like when the numbers don't back up his bullshit, right? He uses words, he lies, and he's always faked numbers in order to get what he wants. Words and numbers and sounds that come out of people's mouths and symbols that are written down don't have to be accurate for Donald Trump. They just have to be effective. People. He had a fake university. People. He was convicted on 34 felony counts for falsifying business records. This guy lies and lies and lies and lies. And so this is why when the jobs numbers came out on Friday and the Bureau of Labor Statistics does what it often does, it sometimes has to rejigger based on the information it has, the past numbers. You've seen this happen time and time again. They get more information. They go, oh, this is really how many jobs were added because they don't have the full information. He fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And when it comes to pissing off people on Wall Street, I think this is a big one. If this cannot, I don't believe we can trust, even if you tried to, let me say this differently, even if you tried to replicate the jobs report, having an outside company try to, let's say, get information from ADP, which is one of the biggest paycheck processors or other sources, you would never fully trust it because you would think someone has a profit motive to kind of monkey with those numbers. Our Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers on employment are critical for businesses to plan, for hiring, for businesses to plan for procurement and sales. It's kind of at the bedrock of understanding what's happening in our economy. And he's fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, even though she isn't the one who actually makes up the numbers. She only finds out the numbers like a couple days before. And it's gone through a very serious, rigorous process with redundancies in place so there cannot be falsification. I don't usually share with you anything that Larry Summers has said because there are various reasons. I think Larry Summers has a problematic history, not the least of which the sexist comments he'd made historically, but also his role in deregulation during the Clinton era that helped set us up for the financial crisis. But that said, I want to share with you what Larry Summers had to say on the news over the weekend about the danger in firing the head of the BLS. Let's go. Sorry.
Goes in the category. I guess this firing of the BLS commissioner goes in the category of shocking but not surprising.
Yeah, this is way beyond anything that Richard Nixon ever did. I'm surprised that other officials have not responded by resigning themselves, as took place when Richard Nixon fired people lawlessly. This is a preposterous charge. These numbers are put together by teams of literally hundreds of people following detailed procedures that are in manuals. There's no conceivable way that the head of the BLS could have manipulated this number. The numbers are in line with what we're seeing from all kinds of private sector sources. This is the stuff of democracies giving way to authoritarianism. Firing statisticians goes with threatening the heads of newspapers. It goes with launching assaults on universities. It goes with launching assaults on law firms. that defend clients that the elected boss finds uncongenial. This is really scary stuff, and it can hardly be surprising that when the rule of law is a bit in question, that there's a big uncertainty premium in the markets that is operating to both make there be less investment, which slows the economy down, and also means there's less supply so that there's more inflationary pressure.
So Donald Trump, his tariff policy hasn't been good for jobs. It's been good for him bringing in hundreds of billions of dollars. God knows what he is doing with that money. Still shutting down all the services that we need. They haven't changed their policy from the budget. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this. Oh, by the way, apparently George Stephanopoulos on ABC invited someone from the Trump administration to come on. They refused. Okay, let's go. Let's listen to more about Donald Trump shooting the messenger about the bad economy.
How far off was this jobs report from your expectations? I mean, the number for July was low, but the downward revisions of almost...
Let me just show you this. Here are some of the headlines. Daily Beast. This is Fox News Sunday. They put up these headlines. Daily Beast. Trump's boast of an economic boom gets brutal reality check. New York Post. Dow drops over 500 points as Trump tariffs jobs report spook Wall Street. And the London Times. Markets fall as cracks appear in the U.S. economy. Okay. This is what Fox put up. Let's play.
How far off was this jobs report from your expectations? I mean, the number for July was low, but the downward revisions of almost 250,000, more than that, jobs could not have been welcome news.
Right. Well, I think with the economy, it's really important to keep our eyes on the horizon. And the eyes on the horizon are seeing really smooth sailing ahead. We've got 3% GDP growth. And yes, this week, a disappointing jobs number. When I first saw the big revisions, which, by the way, were the largest revisions going all the way back for 50 years, if we exclude the COVID years. When I saw those revisions, I thought it must be a typo. That I've never seen a revision like this. And as you know, you've known me a long time. I live in these data. You know, at the 100th expenditures.
Okay. Stop it. I can't listen to him. When his lips, you know, when they're moving, he is just covering for Donald Trump. Now, I got some good news and some weird news. Okay. So here's some good news. As you may have heard, the Democrats in Texas in the legislature are leaving in the state house to make sure there's not a quorum so they cannot vote on a bill that would gerrymander the hell out of Texas. So Texas wants to create 6 more, it's either 5 or 6 more seats in Congress for Republicans. They're drawing the map in such a way that they are looking at how the voters in those areas voted to try to help Republicans maintain control of the House, because Donald Trump's policies are not popular and they need to rejigger things around. So what are the Texas Dems doing? They have left the state. If they leave the state, there is no quorum. They cannot be apprehended out of the state by sheriffs. And where have they gone? They have been welcomed into the state of Illinois by Governor Pritzker. I love it. And apparently he has helped because his family owns a lot of hotels, facilitated their stay. So that won't cost them all that much. Now, the problem is it's a $500 fine every day that they refuse to come in. Now we have the Governor Abbott of Texas is threatening not only to arrest them, but also claiming their seats can be replaced and it's unconstitutional under the Texas Constitution. He cites to AG Ken Paxton's opinion, which doesn't actually support his argument there. So I think this is fabulous news. More on that tomorrow. Now on the creepy and then the crazy town. Let's listen to this very creepy thing that Donald Trump had to say about White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
I didn't realize she'd be in the room, but she's on my list. Caroline Leavitt.
She's become a star. It's that face, it's that brain, it's those lips, the way they move like she's a machine gun. Is she in the room?
She's in the room.
She's a star, and she's great. She's a great person, actually, but she's, I don't think anybody has ever had a better press secretary than Caroline. She's been amazing.
Mr. President,
Lips that move like a machine gun. I'm just going to leave that there. Okay. Now, talk about Donald Trump being, as one of his professors said, the stupidest goddamn person or student he ever had. People don't ever talk about their students, but I think if Donald Trump was your student, you could make an exception, given that he is a racist, rapist, fascist, know-nothing, destroyer of democracy, greedy fucking person. Okay. Guys, math is hard for him, but I just want to run through this thing. If I had, let's say, $50 and I said, I had something worse. Let's say I bought something. Let's say this cost my little AirPods. Let's say that cost $50. And I told you that the price had gone up 50%. 50% of 50 is 25. So now 50 plus 25 is 75. This would be cost 75. If I told you this went up 100%, 100% of 50 is 50, it would now cost 100. Got it? If I start out with 50. If I told you it went down 50%, $25. If I told you it went down 100%, it would be free. If I told you it went down 200%, it's still free. I mean, the only way that you could make sense of it, I mean, in theory, if I told you that these went down 100%, then they're free. If I told you they went down 200%, I guess the company would be paying me $50 to take it. Okay, but there's no such thing as something going down in price over 100%. Just some flippin' basic math. Let's listen to the idiot president now.
Heading into midterms, what do they need to do? What can they do to, hold?
Well, one of the things they're going to be talking about pretty soon are the tremendous drop in drug prices. We've cut drug prices by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500%. I don't mean 50%. I mean.
Okay, what the fromage? I dare a single reporter to say, how much would that be? If my medication cost me $800 a month, Donald, and you're telling me it went down 1,000%, tell me how much I'd be paying. Let's continue.
14, 1,500%, because we're going.
Okay. I can't even handle that, but that was actually supposed to be our crazy town. Holy flippin' everything. So that was our crazy town. So with that, my friends, I am going to have to play it one more time, but with the crazy town music. Sorry, it's Monday. Let's go.
Heading into midterms, what do they need to do? What can they do to, hold?
Well, one of the things they're going to be talking about pretty soon are the tremendous drop in drug prices. We've cut drug prices by 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, 1,500%. I don't mean 50%. I mean 14, 1,500%, because we're going.
Okay, guys. It's insane. So if you've liked the show, please subscribe. It's free. Please hit that notification bell so you don't miss a show. And please tell your friends. You're going to hear stuff here before you hear it other places. Just you wait and see. Can't wait to see you all tomorrow.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show. Well, welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show. Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show. Well, welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show. Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show. Well, welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show. Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show. Well, welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show.